In this video, I will compare similarities between two notorious crimes that took place on opposite corners of the globe. The first crime was the Jonbenet Ramsey murder that was committed by an unknown perpetrator in the basement of a home in Boulder, Colorado. And the second crime for comparison was the event known as the Mosman collar bomber extortion attempt that occurred in the town of Mosman, Australia, when a man by the name of Paul Peters, during a visit from the United States, strapped a simulated remote control bomb to teenager Madeline Pulver's neck and demanded ransom money as a condition for removing the simulated bomb. To start with, I will compare and contrast the two ransom notes. The first ransom note on the left was left at the home of little Jonbenet Ramsey by her as yet unidentified killer, possibly during a kidnapping attempt in Boulder, Colorado. And a second ransom note left a decade and a half later in a home in Australia, in the home of victim Madeline Pulver, by a known perpetrator, Paul Douglas Peters. I am going to point out many similarities between these two ransom notes and also discuss how these similarities demonstrate parallels within the personalities of these two culprits, if indeed they are two distinct culprits and not one and the same. As most will recall, little Jonbenet Ramsey was a 6-year-old girl who was killed in her home's basement on Christmas Eve in 1996 by an unknown perpetrator who has never been identified or caught, but who did leave a detailed ransom note requesting a large sum of money. And it has never been ascertained whether the ransom note was a serious attempt to attain money or simply a distraction by a deranged madman whose only real motivation was to satiate his sick compulsions to inflict terror and commit murder. And in a similar ransom/extortion attempt, 15 years later in August of 2011, Australian-born Paul Peters flew from his home in Kentucky, United States, all the way to Australia, where he broke into a home and chained a simulated, homemade, remote control activated, explosive bomb onto the neck of teenager Madeline Pulver when her parents were away. And he left his victim with a ransom note to forward to her parents that contained detailed instructions for them to transfer large sums of money into his bank accounts in exchange for instructions on how to defuse the bomb around their daughter's neck. And as with the Ramsey extortion attempt, it is not clear whether Paul Peters ever intended on following through with collecting any money, or if his real motivation was only to incite terror into his victim. What I am going to do here is I'm going to compare these two men and their two ransom notes, and I'm going to demonstrate how very, very, very similar these two men are. And it would even make one wonder if they could be the same man.